All right, so what's going on, guys? So I have a big video for you today. If you've been following me the last couple of weeks, I've been talking a lot more about some of the current events and what's going on right now and how to really deal with it as a Christian and as somebody in a world where there's so much information, there's so much disinformation, there's so much misinformation, there's so much narratives, propaganda, and so many different stories that it's hard to believe what's going on. And even if you do research, you're left wondering, is it true? Is it not true? And various other questions, right? And so we're in a stage right now where a lot of things are happening, the dust is settling, and more people are truly asking the question of what's really going on. And so in this video, I want to talk a little bit about factual things that have been evidenced of what's going on. And just as a caveat, I'm not here to advocate for, if you're looking at the title, I'm not here to advocate for a certain person. I'm not here to advocate for war. I'm not here to say or sign off on what I think is a good thing of what's going on. I'm just going to tell it like it is, in the sense that this is what's going on. These are the causations, the reactions, what God is doing in the midst of all this stuff. And so you got to realize that I'm trying to present as neutral of a viewpoint as possible, in the sense that this, if you see it from a 10,000 foot view, if you see it from a even prophetic, biblical end times view, if you look at it from looking at it from a bigger picture view of different global movements, different political, social movements, and things like that, then you can see it from that perspective. And so I know a lot of people are upset at the things that are happening at the grassroots level. And what I mean by that is killing, people messing up. You got all these different accusations, many different things coming out. And of course, it's not good. That's the collateral damage of wars and injustice and fighting and various things like that. And so this is sadly part of it, but in some sense, a journey, a necessary evil, in a sense, to get to the other side. And so you see that happen all the time in the Bible. God always allowed Satan, in some sense, to work to show his glory. You see that with Job and messing with Job and his family. You see it with the Israelites in Judges and just being ransacked, taking people and exiling them, and various stories like that. And so it's sad, but this is the result of sin in the world today. And what I'm saying is that God is sovereign. He works. He's over all these different things. And so I have a video that I did back on November 19th, 2021. It's called The Current Times, and it's part 4 of a 7-part series. And in that video, I outlined very clearly the bigger picture of the war of good versus evil. And so we're not here to talk about the West versus the East, Russia versus Ukraine, left versus right, Republican versus Democrat, Christian versus non-Christian, this view versus that view, this people group versus that people group. What I'm talking about, and what I've always had my lens or my sort of a view finder in, is that there's a battle of good versus evil. And there are certain players, and I'm not saying everybody that fights for the good side is necessarily a wholly good Christian. I talked about that with Trump, and I'll even insert Putin in this aspect as well. I'm not saying they're, good, awesome people. God always, in his sovereign will, has allowed people to be used for his glory and for his will to be done. You see a lot of non-Israelite, even pagan kings, King Cyrus, Nebuchadnezzar, Pharaoh, many people being used to be able to bring the Israelites to a certain response, to move and position the Israelites and other people to a certain place, to teach them a lesson, whatever it is, even present judgment, right? And so he's using those things for some purpose, to reorient, to provide some sort of restoration, movement, whatever it is, in a certain direction. So he's always done that throughout the Bible, and that's no different right now. And so what we're witnessing right now is a fulfilling of biblical prophecy, in that in the very end times, and it's not right now, but there will be a centralization of government. There will be a centralization for which the Antichrist will have the keys to the nation, as the Bible says, right? And we're seeing a trial run or a pilot run for some of these things, but it's not yet, right? And so that's why right now there's such a global battle in terms of getting centralized, consolidated power and setting that up for Satan versus the other area of decentralization. So I talk about that in this video. And so if you can, please check that video out. It gives good context in terms of the roles that are being played, especially with the banking systems, especially with people of power and various things. And so right now, we're in a stage right now where Putin is setting off the takedown of the cabal global world order. And so whatever you want to call it, the elite, Illuminati, the globalists, the whatever Bilderberg, whatever different terms are out there. But the fact is, for many years, for decades and even centuries, you had a very small group of rich and powerful people that have set up things for their benefit. And namely, it's through the banking system, the global banking systems. So anything with the IMF, the Federal Reserve, anything for which you can have currency power. And that is not based on some kind of gold standard or something that's pegged to something. It's really just made up fiat currency. And so anything that has to do with being pegged to paper currency and having control over it, both monetary and fiscal, through government and through the banking system, that allows certain few people to have small control over all of the wealth in the world. And so you may look at it and be like, no, I don't think that's possible or whatever. But if you study economics, if you study the way it works and how that power, if it's abused and manipulated, it benefits certain people, then you would see that. If you don't know that, and if you deny that, then you are literally living under a rock and you don't really understand what the effect is on countries, what the effect is on wealth, the middle class, the poor, and all that stuff. And so right now we're in a time where there's more centralization of countries, of unification, and it's under the guise of being good for the world. So you got NATO, you got EU, and all this stuff. And I'm not saying everybody is a satanic worshiper that is in that area. What I'm saying and what I described in that video is that Satan is using centralization of global powers and government and banking systems to gain control. And he's going to inject himself through certain people, especially those that are not saved, to manipulate them and to get them to pull certain levers in the benefit of setting up this global system. And so a lot of people, they're still going to brush that off and laugh it off, but that's what's happening. And this is what Putin and Russia is standing against. And what and again, I'm not spewing some conspiracy. If you follow and if you've seen the history of Russia and what they fought against, right, going back decades, they've fought against the Rothschilds, the basically any of the banking families, right? Rockefellers, Klaus Schwab, and these guys, the recent guys, Soros, and all that stuff. So this family that has been wanting to establish central banking systems in Russia, they've rejected it. So if you notice, Russia is the only superpower in the world, and in the sense of largest country. They have not adopted these things. And so that's why they're not part of a lot of these, groups like NATO and these things, but they're termed as a partner. And so that's why right now you have a lot of people that are going against. Every time a country is against a certain endeavor, you see recently El Salvador accepting and using cryptocurrency, and a lot of people just going after them, right? So throughout history, countries that don't abide, they go after them and they make them broke and all this stuff. And so this is not something where it's like, oh, like show me proof. If you do some research, you can see that over decades. And Russia has been one of the countries, especially with Putin at the helm, where they've vehemently went against these globalist agendas. And when I say globalist, it means setting up these cross-boundary things. And I'm not saying that they're against, working with and having neutrality in this stuff, but they've just rejected the financial, the banking, and all these different accords that they want people to sign and have under one roof, right? And so Putin, what he's doing right now, he's against these things. And what Putin has said time and time again is that the Western world, they're under these Luciferian, neo-Nazi, satanic groups. And that's strong language, right? He's using this language to tell you that there are a small group of people, right? I'm not talking about everybody in the US, everybody in Germany, everybody in the UK. There's a small group of people that promote pedophilia. They degrade Christian values. They hate the family nucleus. They use, they go against the two gender, norm and many other things. They also make Christian, I think in a video he said they make Christian holidays are named neutrally, so that as if you are ashamed of those things, right? So he's been saying a lot of different things for which objectively it's true, right? It's true that Western worlds, their thinking and all these different things, they're being skewed to more of a woke liberal mindset, away from the foundations of Christianity. So again, I'm not here to say that, oh, Putin is a holy Christian. I'm not here to say, oh, I approve of everything Putin is doing. But what's clear is that Putin and Russia has always been against globalization, centralization of banking, of political power, and all these different things. They just don't like it, right? They just don't. And I'm not saying that they're, righteous and they love the Lord. Yeah, they're Christians, they're good people there, but they just don't want that. And so they've been fighting against that. And so that's why in the world right now, there's been such a divide of Russia versus a lot of other people, because these people, the people that are controlling the media, they're controlling the narrative, they're controlling how they want people to view Russia. They're marginalizing, they're demonizing, and they're making them look bad. And so if you look right now, I've been talking in the last few videos, you got to be very careful of how you take in information right now with all the bombings. Everyone's like, oh, Russia's bombing this and they're doing all this stuff. Be very careful what video, what evidence, what is backing these claims, right? If you look at live video feed of certain cities in Ukraine, if you actually talk to some of the people on the ground that are saying it's a bit quiet in many of these areas, with the exception of some bombings and stuff like that, which people are saying are bioweapons, right? So what you got to understand is that there is a big play and on your emotions. They're appealing to your emotions. They're giving you blood and like all these images and sad stories and all this stuff. And again, I'm not mocking it in that it's not right. It's not good, right? Obviously, those things are not good, but they're playing on your emotions to make you more fearful, make you more anxious, make you more angry, such that you have a bad view of Putin, of the West, or of Russia, and all these different people that are against it. And so they're pitting you against other people, and you have to have an objective, clear-minded approach. And that's what I've been saying this whole time, right? And so right now, what you're seeing is you're seeing Putin going against these things. And so I believe right now it's the beginning of the end of the global cabal. And what they're doing is they're fighting against certain, I've talked about special operations and missions, right? So they're fighting against certain things that are going on right now. And so there's been evidence, and if you see, the CDC website, they've taken it down, but biodefense research facilities, you can go back to 2005. There's an article from the Washington Post on August 30th in 2005 talking about Obama and funding and doing this bio research stuff in Ukraine. And even now, you got Ukraine being the largest donor for the Clinton Foundation. I've talked about all this money that's flowing through Ukraine, right? And so this is the hotbed. This is the funding ground for a lot of these rich, elite people, including Clinton and many other people. You got Biden, his family. Many people are using the banking systems in Ukraine. And one thing you've got to realize is that you can't look at one nation homogeneously. You can't look at one nation and say, oh, it's all a bad nation. It's all a good nation. So even with the US, I've said that there's really bad people. We talk about deep state. We talk about, some people just say Democrats, some people say liberals or whatever it is, but you got people on either side, Republican, Democrat. You have evil people, you got good people. And a lot of people, if you look at the US, they look at it homogenously. Oh, they're all evil. They're all bigots, whatever. Or, oh, that's a land of the free and it's awesome. It's all good. If you look at a nation homogenously, you are looking at it at a very elementary layer. So even with Russia, you got good people, bad people. In Ukraine, you got corrupt people and you got some good people. That's why Putin is addressing some people well, like the Ukrainian army and some of the people that are there. And then he's addressing other people, the people that the West have set up as leaders that are neo-Nazis, all these different names that he's used. There are evil people in Ukraine. There are evil people in certain organizations. So you have to get your mindset out of, oh, it's all of, everyone says, oh, let's stand with Ukraine, or let's stand with everybody. But remember, if you do that, you are missing out on the minor nuanced details of what's going on in there. So there's political party. Even in China, guys, there are good Chinese, and then there are communist Chinese, bad people that want nothing more than to have power, consolidated power. And there are other people in China, they want good things, right? So that's why if you look at all of China, all of Russia, all of Ukraine as good, bad, then you are missing the point. It's the same thing as looking at the US and saying, oh, they're all good. All of the Congress, all of the Senate, they're all good. you are missing the point of what it means to see it in terms of good versus evil. So you have to see it that way. And if you look at it that way, then you can begin to understand why Putin may be targeting certain people. I've talked about him uprooting, doing special operations among a bigger global movement. What if Trump and Putin and even President Xi are working together? What if there are certain people that are trying to uproot the evil that's been entrenched within the government, within the financial, the banking sectors, within corporations, within many different areas for which they have grown together to be this poison throughout society, in health, in pharmaceutical, and many other areas, right? What if there are people that are trying to get rid of that and they're standing against that? And so that's what I've been advocating, what you have to see from that viewpoint, as opposed to being played on your emotions and looking at something homogeneously and saying, oh, yeah, we have to stand with all of Ukraine. But what if you want to pluck out certain bad things? And again, I'm not saying these are facts or not. I'm saying let's do more research. Let's keep an open mind to see what's out there and who's playing the narrative and who's telling you to believe this, and drawing on and appealing to your emotions based on images of blood and war and all these different things. I've said before, your ability to process information is very important at this stage right now. Again, you've already seen it: video game footage, past footage, crisis actors, many things for which it's been recycled. You can do simple research and see a lot of footage being used that were in different countries. Israel, Palestine conflict versus, several years ago, an old footage of the separatist conflict and things like that, right? So you have to see it from that perspective. So there's a use right now of what God is doing with the people. And I'm not saying that Putin is all good. What God's doing is he's using certain people in a certain time right now, appealing to them, just like with King Cyrus, just like with Pharaoh, just like with King Nebuchadnezzar. There are times for which some people, they stand and they want to stand for righteousness. They don't want it. They don't like it. I'm not saying that they're necessarily good Christians, but you see those same kings, those judges, right, in the Old Testament. Some stood up for righteousness and they were rewarded. And then others, the very next generation, they fell away and then they were punished for that. And so even now, and again, I'm not saying that Russia is amazing and I stand for them, right? In the end times, there may be a link to the kings of the north and Gog and Magog and all those different things that the Bible prophesies to them. But in this season right now, I believe that Russia is being used for the takedown of the global cabal. And that's what we're seeing. And so that's the kickoff. And I've said before, you're going to see this in the US. You're going to see major arrests of criminals, of enterprises, of politicians, and many people that have done wicked and evil things. It just hasn't been fully known to the people. And you could do research and understand that, but to have that be part of the mainstream media narrative, for that to be part of the everyday conversation in the story, that we haven't gotten there yet. And so there's only a few people, and slowly more people are waking up. But there's only a few people that really understand and have done all the research. And it takes time. It takes an open mind. And it takes a lot of discernment to be able to really understand what's good. And even you can't even trust one source, right? One source may have a couple of different stories mixed up, right? And so that's why you have to have real, true godly discernment in this time to be able to understand what's going on. And so we're in a time right now, guys, where I believe this year, it's a critical year. You'll see it. And I think, and I'm praying about what China and Taiwan is. I know there's a lot of things going on with that area too, but I believe that China and that aggression with Taiwan, it's being painted in a certain way, but there's more than meets the eye there as well. And so again, I'm not assuming that China's good and then Taiwan is bad or whatever it is, but there's something else going on. And a lot of that is where the globalists, a lot of the elite and all these different people, whatever you want to call it, the Rockefellers, the Rothschilds, the Soroses of the world, and those guys, Klaus Schwab's of the world, those guys are doing something and backing and using these things and then playing on the emotions, the leadership, the hold, the grip, the handcuffs that they have over certain people to push a certain message, to tell you to believe and tell you to feel what you want to feel or what they want you to feel, and then get you riled up. And so that's why right now it's more important than ever to be able to be in check and in control of your emotions. It's a good time now because I believe it's a start of a lot of things. And right now you're already seeing, unfortunately, some of these things and some collateral damage. But again, like I said, in a prophetic dream I had the other day, God has sent this special ops mission and just a lot of things going down right now. So in clandestine, just secretive things, and we'll see a lot of that come out. But right now, it's a time where we just have to pray and let God do his thing. And whatever he has planned, he's exposing, he's allowing wickedness to come to light, and he's going to bring judgment and take care of the people that he has to take care of in order for us to move into a place where we're not in bondage to financial systems. We're not in bondage to a small group of elite people. We're not susceptible to, this population control endeavor to get you sick, to kill you off, and all these different things that are out there, guys. And this is real stuff. And again, a lot of people are going to fight me and they're going to say, where's the proof? Where's the evidence? I'm not here and I don't have time anymore to handhold people. If you're at a point where you're awake and you're moving forward and you're like, wow, I've been red pilled, I've been awakened, and I've done research, I see it. That's where a lot more people, millions and millions of others, are coming to that realization as well. And so we're in a time, it's a good time now. It's the fog of war. We're in the thick of things. Information warfare is heavy. They're going to appeal to you, your emotions, and all these different things. It's a sad time too. And again, I'm not here to stand for and say, oh, this guy's doing really well, I'm all for this guy. God is just allowing it to happen in this time right now. And so we're in a time where there's a big takedown. A lot of things are going down, but God's using these people. He's using people that may not necessarily even know God. And again, I'm not assuming that Putin or anybody does or doesn't know God, but he's using lots of different people to accomplish his will, because it's a season now of bringing down, of exposing and taking care of sin, of wickedness, so that we can move into a time where we are able to do more things, godly things, kingdom things, and uphold, stand up Christian values that have already and that have been lost for many generations right now. And so we're moving into that phase. I'm excited for it. Love you guys. Talk to you guys very soon.